Hello dear students. Last time we have seen the concepts of object-oriented programming which included the classes and the objects. Now we'll move on to next important concept of C++ which is polymorphism, which has function overloading, operator overloading and virtual functions. Hello students. Today we are going to cover the topics in polymorphism, function overloading, which is a recap of our 11th standard portion, operator overloading, virtual function. Then we'll move on to the concept of static and early binding, dynamic and late binding. Also, we would like to cover type conversion today. What is polymorphism? It is an important concept in the object-oriented programming technology. Polymorphism basically stands for one name and different forms. In C++, this is achieved by using function overloading, operator overloading and virtual functions. So, polymorphism, it comes in two types, compile time and runtime. Compile time is supported by function overloading and operator overloading, whereas in runtime, we have function overloading. Function overloading is a part of polymorphism in C++. It refers to using same things for different purposes. In function overloading, we can create a family of function with one function name and different argument list. We have done this in 11th standard. Like I've written function area with different argument list. This is function overloading. Next we have operator overloading. The mechanism of giving some extra or a special meaning to an already existing operator is called as operator overloading. To define this exact additional task, we must specify what it means in relation to the class to which it is applied. This is done using operator function. Yes, now let us see how we write the operator function inside the class. When you write it inside, it is just like any other function, but it is preceded with the keyword operator. So, return type, the keyword operator. Here, OP is going to be the operator that you want to overload, and then the parameters or the argument list. This provides a flexible option for creation of new definition for most C++ operators. Now, when we write this outside the class, obviously it comes with the scope resolution operator and the class name. So, the syntax is return type, class name, scope resolution operator, then the keyword operator. OP is the operator like plus, minus, multiplication, division, whatever that you want to overload, and then the argument list. So, this is how we are going to write the operator function inside and outside the class. Let us see a small program where I have overloaded the minus or the negation operator. So, I have included obviously the iostream.h and conio.h classes. Class space is the class that I want to create, which has three integers x, y and z. In the public section, I have void getSpace, which simply assigns the value to x, y and z. You can give any values here. I have given 10, minus 20 and 30. Then comes the operator minus. Here I am going to use the negation operator to negate the values of x, y and z. Then we have the function display, and mind you, the class closes at this point. I have first written the space display function outside the class. So void space scope resolution operator and display. I'm just simply going to write s is equal to x, so value of x, comma y, comma z. So it will give me the value of x, comma y, comma z. Now comes the operator function. So return type is void, space is the class name, scope resolution operator, the keyword and the operator minus that I plan to overload. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to negate the value of x, y and z. Let's see how our void main is going to work. Space s is the object of space. Then I call the function getS, which will give the value to x, y and z. Then I display. So when I display this, I'm going to get this result 10, minus 20 and 30. Now I'm going to say minus s. So minus s will call the overloaded operator function. And once I call it, it is going to negate the values of x, y, and z. So after using the operator function, the values are going to be -10, +20, and -30. Now note here that when the compiler will see an object with the minus operator, it will call for the overloaded operator function. Okay, like in the previous example, -s. But we can still use the original minus operator with the basic data types like integer. A is equal to 10 and A is equal to -a will negate the value of A. There are some rules for overloading the operators. To begin with, only the existing operators can be overloaded. You cannot create your own operators to overload. The overloaded operators must have at least one operand of the user-defined data type. Then, we cannot change the basic meanings of an operator. Then, overloaded operators will follow all the syntax of the original operator. They cannot be overridden. Next one is, there are some operators that cannot be overloaded in using operator overloading. These are size of, then the dot operator, which is membership operator, then dot and the pointer, which is pointer to member operator, then our scope resolution operator, and then the conditional operator. Next, we cannot use friend function to overload certain operators, but we can have member function to overload them. These are the equal to sign, which is the assignment operator, then the function called, then the square bracket, which is used for arrays, so subscripting operator, and the arrow operator, which is the class member access operator. The other rules include the unary operators, which can be overloaded by means of member function, will take no argument and return no value. But if you are using it with the friend function, they will take one reference argument, which will be the object of the relevant class. A binary operator overloaded by means of a member function can take one explicit argument, and those overloaded by means of friend function will take two explicit arguments. Now here, if you have written minus, you can find out if you're passing an argument, it is a binary minus. If no argument pass, it is a unary minus. When using binary operators overloaded through member function, the left-hand operator must be an object of the relevant class. This is quite obvious. Then, the binary arithmetic operators such as plus, minus, multiplication and division must explicitly return a value. They must not attempt to change their own arguments. Moving on to an important program of addition of complex numbers. This program is there for your practicals also, students. So let's see how we are going to work with it. We have, of course, the hash include iostream.h and conio.h as it is. Class complex, and then I have this integers x and y. Obviously, x and y will be the real and the imaginary part. Complex here, now you should see or you should be able to guess, this is complex, this is also complex, this is a function, so this is a constructor of the complex class. Then in the constructor, I have used x as 0 and y as 0. Since we are not passing any argument here, it means that it is a default constructor. Moving on, we have another complex. So obviously this too is a constructor and we are passing two parameters to it. So this is a parameterized constructor. Out of this, A I'm going to assign to x and B I'm going to assign to y. The print function will simply print the value of x plus I and the value of y. So it will be x plus iy. Now this thing, complex, operator plus and complex. So here operator is the keyword, plus is the operator that I'm going to overload. Complex means the object of the complex class will be the parameter that I'm going to pass, and this complex is the return type, which is an object that I'm going to return. The class closes here. Now let us see how the complex operator function is going to work. So first complex stands for return type. The next complex, this one, is for the class name. Scope resolution operator as it is. Operator keyword is the keyword. Plus is the operator that I'm going to overload. And complex B1, here B1 will be the object that I'm going to pass. Now inside that I've taken a complex temp. So temp is an object of the complex class. So x part of temp will be equal to x of b1 plus x, y will be y plus b1 dot y. And then I'm going to return the temp value. We'll come to this slightly later again. Let us see void main. We have first complex number A, which is having the value 10 and 20. So here x will be assigned 10, y will be assigned 20. For the second complex number B, x is 30 and y is 40. For the third complex number C, x will be 0 and y will be 0 because you are not passing any parameter. It will call the default constructor and it will assign 0, 0 to x and y. Now, the most important part, C is equal to A plus B. You should read it as this. The object that is calling the operator function using the dot operator. B is the parameter I'm going to pass and C is going to be the return type. Coming back to our complex operator function, we can see that this x and this y will be the x and y for this, or the values of x and y for this object A, which is calling this operator function. b1x and b1y will belong to this B and temp will be calculated. So now here the important thing is when the compiler sees an object around the plus operator, it will call the overloaded operator function. Okay. So now when I say output, the first complex number, you should see this, 10 plus I 20. The second complex number is 30 plus I 40 and the third complex number is 40, the addition of first and second. So this is our program with the complex number, which includes the constructor and the operator function. And the most important part is this, that you should be able to interpret each time. The next concept is the virtual function. Now, where you use these virtual functions, consider a situation where we've learned inheritance, or we'll be doing inheritance. So I have base class and I have derived class. So the function in the base class is show and derived class is also show. In this case, what happens is both these functions have same prototype in base class and derived class. So the ambiguity here is basically it is allowed because both the classes are independent. But since it is derived, the ambiguity is that this and this, the prototype is same. So the prototype is same in base class and derived class. This is not function overloading and this is allowed in C++. So for this, C++ supports the mechanism of virtual functions. Let us see how it works. So I have this class base. Here in class base, I have this function void show. It is preceded with the keyword virtual and then inside this I have written show base, simple. Then I have class derived, which is derived from the base class. That too has the same function show. In this I have written show derived. Now we know that base class we can have a base class object and the base class pointer. D is here the derived class object. Base class pointers can point to the base class and derived class. So now first I am pointing it to the object B. That means it is pointing to the base class object and I say show. When I say show, what I get is when pointer is pointing to base, I get show base. Now, I want this pointer to point to derived. So this BPTR is pointing to address of D, where D is the derived class object, and when I say BPTR show, it will say show derived. Now why does this happen is because when the pointer comes to the base, when it is pointing to the derived class, it sees this keyword virtual, it simply jumps this, or we say override this, and uses the function of the derived class. So in doing so, what happens is we are actually overriding the base class function to use the derived class function. When is this done? When the pointer is pointing to the derived class. Now, the whole concept of polymorphism once again. So polymorphism comes in two parts, compile time and runtime. In compile time, we have seen what is function overloading, we have seen what is operator overloading. In runtime, we have seen what are virtual functions. So yes, as I said, compile time, it comes with function overloading and operator overloading, and runtimes comes with virtual functions. So in C++, identically named functions or operators behave in a different way depending upon what is the function call or whether an object is referring to it. In C++, this is achieved by, we know this now, function overloading and operator overloading. Now, the overloaded function can be selected by using matching arguments. The operator can be selected if the object is an operand with that operator. This information is known to the compiler at compile time, and therefore compiler can select the appropriate function at the compile time itself. So now this type of overloading, since it is at the time of compilation, it is called as compile time polymorphism. And since compilation is done much early before the execution, it is also called as early binding. And since the program is still to be executed, that means it is not in the run mode, it is called as static binding. Moving on, runtime. So when we have same prototype in the base class and the derived class, we make the base class function virtual. Important, okay? When the function is made virtual, C++ determines at runtime which function is to be used. So at runtime, it is known to the compiler, depending upon which object is under consideration, then the appropriate function is called. So this thing is known to the compiler at runtime. So which function is to be called? That's why it is called as runtime polymorphism. As the function is linked with a particular class much later in compilation, this process is called as late binding. See, compilation is always first, running is always later. So it is called as late binding. Now, because the selection of the function is done dynamically. So by dynamically, I mean when it is running. Okay. So when it is running, the function is selected, and that's why it is also called as dynamic binding. Now mind you, they can ask you in the exam, they can ask you runtime polymorphism, they can ask you late binding, they can ask you dynamic binding. All three concepts are same. Same thing is with compile time polymorphism. They can ask you compile time, they can ask you early binding, or they can ask you static binding. Conceptually, all three of them are same. Now, let us look at one more program in which I have overloaded the plus plus operator. You know what a plus plus operator? They increment the value of the operand by 1. Now, let us see. We have this class iostream.h and conio.h as they are always. Then I have used a class counter. Now in this I have an integer which is count. This counter and this counter are same. This is a function. So function with the same name as that of the class name We know by now that it is called as a constructor. In this, I'm making or initializing the value of count to 0. Next function is getCount. GetCount will simply print the value of count as whatever it is. As of now, we know it is just 0. Then comes the overloaded operator function. Now, since I'm writing this function inside the class, I need not use the scope resolution operator, simply give the body to it. So void is the return type, operator is again the keyword. The OP that we have been talking about is the operator that we want to overload, and in this case it is the plus plus operator. So I say count plus plus. So it will increment the value of count by 1. In this case, if it is 0, it will increment it by 1, so make it 1. The class closes at this point. Void main. In void main, C1 and C2, what are these? Yes, they are the objects of the counter class. So using the object and the dot operator, I am calling this function getCount. Again, using the second object, I'm calling the function again getCount. Now what does this do? It will get the value of count, which is 0 because I haven't yet incremented or changed the value of count. So this should just initialize the count to 0 and print that count is equal to something. Then I say C1 plus plus. Now students, please try to understand, when the compiler sees this plus plus with an object, it will call the operator or the overloaded operator function. This is important. See, remember, you can always have an integer I and I plus plus. There, it will use the regular plus plus operator and increment the value of I, which is a basic data type. So when the compiler sees basic, it will use it in the basic format. When it sees a user-defined data type, which is the object, then it will call the overloaded operator function. So it will come here and it will increment the value of that 0 by 1. So now it will become, the count will become 1. Same thing with C2. Now count for C2 was 0, that too will become 1. And when I say getCount, I'll have count as 1 and 1 for C1 and C2. So this is how you overload the operator, any operator using overloaded operator function. Yes. One more example I've taken. What I've done is I've taken a ratio class. Now here again, above ratio class, you should have the hash includes iostream.h and conio.h as they are. In this I have two variables, num and den. I have obviously ratio class is there. So num will stand for the numerator and den will stand for the denominator. What will getData do? GetData will simply get the values of num and den. What will print do? Print should print the ratio. And now the important part, we have the operator plus ratio. Now what happens here is, operator is the keyword, plus is the operator to be overloaded. Now when you see a parameter that is passed, you should now recognize this as the binary plus. Okay, so now this will specifies it as a binary plus operator which is going to be overloaded. The class closes here. We are writing getData using the scope resolution operator. So return type, the class name, the scope resolution operator and getData. This tells me that scope of this getData function is in this ratio class. Then I say enter numerator, C in num, enter denominator, C in den. Next, we now write the print function outside the class. So void, ratio, the scope resolution operator and print. Void will be the argument that we are going to pass. Scope resolution operator tells me that the scope of this print function is in this class and it will simply print the ratio as num/den. That means the value of num divided by the value of den. So if it is suppose 2 divided by 4, it will write 2/4. We know what the NDEL stands for. NDEL stands for the new line. So whatever you're going to write later on will be printed on the new line. Now, important. Ratio, ratio, scope resolution operator, and so on. What does this ratio stand for? Yes, that stands for the return type. So this will be return type means the object of ratio class. This ratio stands for the class. This is the scope resolution operator. This is the keyword. Plus is the operator that I'm going to overload, and this R4 is actually the parameter that is going to be passed from the calling function. Obviously that will be void main, so to the called function, which is part of the ratio class and the operator function. So ratio temp, again we'll have object of the ratio class. Now we know cross multiplication, so number will be num into r4.den, and den will be plus den into r4.num, and denominator will be the multiplication of two denominators. Calculated value of num and den will be returned as temp. Moving on. So what happens in void main? I have these three ratios, R1, R2 and R3. What I've done is R1.getData, R2.getData and R3.getData. This thing is calling the value or the operator function R3 is equal to R1 plus R2. Now see this, I've given value to the numerator, first ratio, second denominator. So the first ratio, if I'm putting 1 by 2, it is 1 divided by 2. Second ratio, if it is 3 by 4, it is printed 3 by 4. And the addition will be the sum of these two, that will be 10 by 8. So we now know how we can overload the operators in C++. Yes, students, now we have seen the important concept of polymorphism, which included operator overloading, function overloading, and virtual functions in C++. Now you know how to handle the operator function to overload an existing operators, and you also know what are the rules of this operator function. Next time, in the next lecture, we'll do inheritance, which is another important concept in C++ object-oriented programming.